Hey there, I'm Scott. Welcome back to my home and my kitchen. This last week I had a great email from a gentleman in England asking me to prepare a recipe for a nice springtime soup, something that used some of the fresh produce that we get here in early spring. So definitely I want to share that with you guys. But also want to have just a little bit of kind of culinary history before we prepare this particular dish. One story that's always been sort of inspiring in a romantic way for me is the story of one of the greatest maritime disasters, and that was the sinking of the Titanic on April the 14th, 1912. And today being April 14th, I felt like I wanted to sort of use that story as the basis for the soup that I wanted to show you. And as you can imagine, the Titanic was a gigantic operation. Apart from just the magnificent sort of technical advances they made within shipbuilding, the culinary operation on the ship was just fantastic, and it was all headed up by Chef Rousseau. And Chef Rousseau was definitely inspired by Auguste Escoffier, who was sort of, or the person we know today as the founder of modern cookery. And of the day, everything was sort of fashionable that came from France or from Paris. And not only the fashions that we wear, but also the food that we ate. So the Escoffier inspired menu on the Titanic, especially in the first class dining room, and actually above that in the a la carte restaurant, which was the pinnacle of dining of the time, were definitely Escoffier inspired menus. And in the restaurant, which is the pinnacle, it was actually above just the first class dining room. That's where you got the best food of the time, prepared with the best ingredients, and it was supposed to be fantastic. And it was an 11-course meal, which was, by standards, serving that many people, phenomenal. And one of the first courses of that menu in the a la carte restaurant was potage Saint-Germain, or spring pea soup. And that's what I'm going to prepare today, is the spring pea soup using the freshest spring peas and other great ingredients. So let's get started. So spring pea soup, it's really delicious, and it uses just a minimal amount of ingredients to make a delicious first course or soup course for your dinner party or for your family. And the ingredients that you'll need for this particular recipe are very simple. And that's just about half a cup or one stalk of a leek. And just use the white and very light green parts of that. Cut it open, slice it, and then run it under cold running water inside of a sieve to make sure you get all of that grit removed. Because there's nothing that's really going to ruin your soup more than having a little piece of sand or dirt in the final product, which you don't want. So half a cup of sliced leeks. You're also going to need a pinch of white sugar. You're going to need about 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley, Italian parsley, or a chervil if you have that fresh in your garden. Please, by all means, use that. It adds a great flavor. You'll need about a cup of lettuce leaves. I'm actually using just spring greens for this, but you could use just sliced up romaine lettuce, would be delicious. You're also going to need 2 cups of fresh spring peas, little green sweet peas, or you could substitute 2 cups of frozen peas if that's what you have on hand. It's no big deal. You'll also need about a tablespoon of butter. You're going to need some salt and pepper to taste, and 6 cups of chicken stock. I have a really rich homemade chicken stock here, but by all means, if you need to go to the supermarket and buy chicken stock or vegetable stock and make this completely vegetarian, by all means do. So what you need to do to start is to heat your saucepan over a medium-high heat and add your butter, and we're going to let that melt, and as soon as it does, we'll start to add the rest of the ingredients. The butter has just finished melting nicely, which is exactly what we need to happen. I'm going to add our leeks to this, and I'm going to reduce the heat just to a medium high. We want to saute these lightly for about 5 minutes till they become translucent but not brown. And I'm also going to add our little pinch of sugar, a healthy pinch of salt, depending on how salty your chicken stock is. And please taste that before you start this recipe, because if your chicken stock is too salty and you add salt to that, it's going to be not good. And just a little bit of pepper, probably half a teaspoon or so of pepper. And black pepper is fine here, white pepper is fine. If you don't want those little black specks in your final product, then use white pepper. So we're just going to saute these leeks, as I said, for about 5 minutes over medium heat, getting them nicely cooked down but not browned. The leeks have sauteed nicely or sweated for about 5 minutes, and they're looking really nice, delicate, and become quite limp, and that's just what we want. So to that, I'm going to add my lettuce, the parsley or chervil, whichever you decided to use, and our 2 cups of peas. And just give that a nice stir around so everything gets just a little bit of that heat on it. And to this, add 1 cup of your chicken stock. What we need to do now is to put the lid on, keep the heat over medium-high, and let this heat for about 5 minutes until the peas become nicely tender. Then we'll continue. Okay, it's been 5 minutes and the peas have gotten nicely tender, which is just what we want. So to this, what we need to do is add the remaining chicken stock, all to our pot. And give this a nice stir, let all of that chicken stock heat up nicely, almost to a boil. You really don't want to boil it, and you don't want to cook these peas too long because you want to keep them that really nice, bright pea green color. When you get to this state, it's really simple. All you're going to need to do now is either transfer this in batches into a food processor or blender and puree until it's very, very fine. Or if you have one of these handy gadgets, an immersion blender, they work great. So I'm just going to blend this up until it's nicely pureed. So there we have it. The soup has been nicely pureed, and that's absolutely what we want. If you see a little bit of the lettuce leaf still remaining a little bit whole in there, that's just fine. Because what we need to do now is put another pot over our heat with a very fine mesh strainer or sieve. And through that sieve we'll pour the soup to catch any large bits of the seeds of the peas and the lettuce that didn't get completely ground up. So let this just sit in your sieve. You may have to take a spoon and just kind of work it through, especially if it's very fine. You'll definitely have to do that. And when you get your soup into the pot, it'll be ready to serve. So there you have it. That's potage Saint-Germain, or spring pea soup. And it's absolutely beautiful, vibrant green. And if you have these little espresso cups or something small to serve it in, it's really nice. You can just put them on a tray and pass them to your guests during, the cocktail hour. And it's really good. And this might have been what the Edwardians were eating for dinner in 1912, but it's also exactly what you'll get at some of the finest restaurants that we have today. So I really hope you enjoyed this classic French soup. And as always, please feel free to email me, as my friend now in England has, and ask me to prepare a recipe for you. I'll be more than happy to. Alright, and my email address is scottinoregon@comcast.net. I really hope I'll hear from you. Okay, have a good day. Bye.